Innocence is a strange perfume. It does not need to be spoken. It does not need to be declared. It radiates silently from the way a person trusts too quickly, smiles too openly, believes too easily. It is written in the body language of someone who has not yet tasted betrayal, in the softness of eyes that have not learned to narrow, in the hesitation that betrays a lack of suspicion. The innocent move through the world as if it were an extension of their own heart, projecting purity outward and expecting it to echo back. But this fragrance, as beautiful as it may seem, does not only draw warmth and kindness, it calls forth predators. Just as blood and water awakens the shark, innocence in a human awakens the hunger of those who see trust not as a gift, but as an opportunity. What the innocent mistake for safety is often the camouflage of danger, for predators do not reveal themselves in growls and snarls. They come dressed in charm, in attentiveness, in the mask of understanding. And while the innocent may think they are seen for their kindness, they are in fact seen for their vulnerability. Their lack of suspicion becomes a map, and their openness becomes a doorway. Predators do not hunt in the wild alone. They hunt in offices, in families, in friendships, in relationships. They seek out those who have not yet grown teeth, those who still believe that the world is shaped by fairness, those who cannot imagine that cruelty could ever wear a smile. And so innocence, which should have been protection, becomes an advertisement of weakness. This is why the fragrance of innocence is not only beautiful, it is fatal. Because in the presence of innocence, the predator is not repelled. He is summoned. The tragedy of innocence lies in its blindness. It walks into the world believing that others see life through the same gentle lens, that honesty is the common language of every soul, that kindness will naturally be returned in equal measure. The innocent do not question the motives behind the smile offered to them, nor do they weigh the tone of a voice for hidden sharpness. They confuse politeness with goodwill, vulnerability with intimacy, and attention with love. They think the world is as unguarded as they are, and this illusion becomes the very rope around their neck. A predator does not need to break down their walls, because there are no walls to begin with, only open gates and unlocked doors. Each act of trust becomes a silent confession, each act of openness a broadcast of weakness, and the predator reads these signs with clinical precision. For the innocent, life is still painted in bright colors. For the predator, it is a hunting ground where light marks the easiest target. The innocent cling to the idea that people are essentially good, even when evidence begins to contradict them. They excuse lies as misunderstandings, betrayals as accidents, cruelty as temporary lapses. They mistake patterns of harm for isolated incidents, never realizing that what they call compassion is often the very reason they are bleeding. And by the time the illusion begins to fracture, it is usually too late. The predator has already fed, already taken what he desired, leaving the innocent not just broken but reshaped. Because innocence does not disappear quietly. It shatters, and every shard left behind cuts deeper than any external wound. In this way, the fragrance of innocence not only attracts predators, it guarantees scars. There comes a moment when the innocent realize, often too late, that their light was never just light. It was a beacon, a signal in the darkness that drew not only the lost, but also the hunters who thrive on weakness. This realization does not arrive gently. It arrives in the aftermath of betrayal, in the hollow silence after trust has been weaponized, in the sting of a wound inflicted by the very hand they once held with faith. What was once innocence begins to taste like foolishness, and the sweetness of purity curdles into bitterness. But here lies the cruel paradox. Predators are not born from nowhere. They are made possible by innocence itself. Without trust to exploit, they would have no power. Without openness to enter, no doorway. Without naivety to manipulate, no game to play. Innocence is not only the prey, it is the stage upon which cruelty performs. This is why innocence cannot last. It either dies or it transforms. Some let their innocence be buried in despair, retreating into silence and fear. Others allow it to harden, reshaping it into suspicion, sharpening it into awareness, turning what was once fragrance into armor. And yet, even in its destruction, innocence carries weight, because those who lose it never forget the moment it was stolen. They carry that wound like a scar beneath the skin, a reminder that purity has a price. The world does not reward the unguarded heart, it devours it. And so, the fragrance of innocence fades, leaving behind not the soft perfume of trust, but the sharp edge of survival. For once the predator has come and gone, the innocent can never return to who they were before. They stand at a crossroads. Either remain prey forever, or evolve into something the predator no longer dares to touch. Predators do not see the world as others do. Where the ordinary eye notices faces, gestures, and conversations, the predator's eye notices openings, weaknesses, and cracks. They are not blinded by charm, distracted by words, or softened by smiles. Instead, they are calculating, scanning, measuring. In every crowd, they know how to identify the one who will not resist, the one who hesitates before saying no, the one whose politeness can be twisted into submission. They are hunters of the invisible, specialists in reading silence, tone, posture. A lowered gaze signals pliability. A nervous laugh signals fear. Too much trust signals naivety. Every detail is cataloged and filed away. Every weakness mapped like terrain before an attack. The predator does not need to move fast, for patience is his weapon. He stalks not with claws, but with time, waiting for the perfect moment when the innocent lowers their guard completely. His strength lies not in force, but in perception. He sees the world as prey and predator, nothing more. Where the innocent sees kindness, he sees leverage. Where the innocent offers trust, he sees permission. Where the innocent believes in connection, he sees control. This vision is not accidental. It is evolved, sharpened through repetition, refined by countless encounters. The predator's eye is not a gift of nature, but a weapon of experience. He knows that the majority of people live blind, assuming intentions are pure, never realizing that someone is dissecting them in real time. And once he marks his target, there is little escape. For to be seen through the predator's eye is to be already half consumed. The predator's genius lies in his ability to disguise hunger as harmlessness. To most, he looks ordinary, perhaps even charming. His eyes do not glare with malice, they soften with interest. His voice does not cut, it soothes. The predator knows that the best way to lower defenses is not to strike, but to blend, to become what the innocent longs to see. He mirrors their gestures, reflects their emotions, offers the words they secretly crave, until trust blooms naturally in the victim's heart. But while the innocent feels connection, the predator is only gathering data. Every confession is a key, every detail a lever, every smile a step closer to control. He listens not because he cares, but because information is the purest form of power. He cultivates trust the way a farmer waters crops, not for beauty, but for harvest. The predator is not rushed. He understands that the longer the prey believes they are safe, the deeper the cut will be when the mask drops. And so, he builds slowly, patiently, skillfully. In conversations, he is attentive. In presence, he is dependable. In actions, he is generous. But behind this performance is calculation, an endless analysis of patterns, habits, vulnerabilities. He does not need to show his teeth, because the innocent is already walking willingly into his jaws. By the time suspicion flickers, it is usually drowned by guilt. The innocent doubts themselves before they doubt him. They tell themselves they are imagining things, that their unease is paranoia, that surely someone so kind cannot have dark intentions. This is how the predator's eye wins. Not through force, but through manipulation so subtle it feels like love, like safety, like destiny. And when the trap finally closes, the victim often blames themselves, never realizing they were chosen from the start, marked by eyes that saw what they could not. What makes the predator terrifying is not simply that he sees weakness, it is that he values nothing else. To him, innocence is not beauty, it is bait. Trust is not sacred, it is a lever. Vulnerability is not intimacy, it is an invitation. He does not operate under the illusions of morality that govern ordinary men. He does not wonder if his actions are right or wrong. He only measures if they are effective. And this absence of conscience grants him clarity, a cold precision that turns every human interaction into a calculation of gain. When the innocent walks into his life, he is already dissecting them. How much can be extracted? How far can they be pushed? How blind will they remain? To the predator, every gentle soul is a resource waiting to be consumed, and every unguarded heart is a stage upon which his dominance can be performed. This gaze is relentless. Even when he smiles, even when he pretends care, the eye behind the mask is cold, always measuring, always planning, always hungry. And once you have been chosen by this gaze, you will never truly see him for what he is until the final strike comes. By then, the damage is done. You are left questioning yourself, wondering how you missed the signs, replaying every moment, every smile, every word, only to realize that the predator's "I saw you more clearly than you ever saw yourself." This is the cruel truth. The innocent never recognize the predator until it is too late, because they do not believe such eyes exist. But they do. They are everywhere, hidden in plain sight, waiting, watching. And once you have been marked by them, you will never look at a smile the same way again. The most dangerous lie the innocent tell themselves is that the world is safe because they feel safe within it. They confuse their comfort with protection, their optimism with security. They build their lives on the fragile foundation of belief rather than reality, telling themselves that cruelty is rare, that betrayal is exceptional, that harm is something that happens far away, to people unlike them. This illusion is not weakness. It is survival strategy, a story the mind clings to so it can move forward without collapsing under fear. But illusions have cracks, and predators know how to find them. The illusion of safety makes people careless with their secrets, generous with their trust, and blind to warning signs that could have saved them. They step into relationships without hesitation. They hand over loyalty without testing. They allow intimacy without proof, because the story in their head whispers that others are like them, harmless, sincere, incapable of deliberate malice. And so, they ignore the red flags. They excuse strange behavior, dismiss small betrayals, justify words that sting. They tell themselves they are overthinking, that doubt is cynicism, that suspicion is unfair. They would rather protect the illusion than face the possibility of danger. But safety built on illusion is no safety at all. It is a stage set for collapse. The predator thrives here because he does not need to fight resistance. He only needs to maintain the illusion long enough for the trap to close. By the time the innocent finally recognize the bars around them, they are already in the cage. The comfort they mistook for safety becomes the very chain that binds them. And when the illusion shatters, it does not just reveal danger. It reveals how blind they were, how easily they were deceived, how willingly they participated in their own undoing. The illusion of safety is not only external. It lives inside the mind, shaping how the innocent interpret the world around them. When something feels wrong, they silence the voice of instinct because it conflicts with the story they desperately want to believe. They cling to phrases like, "Not everyone is bad," or "They didn't mean it like that," as shields against discomfort. These rationalizations are not truth. They are narcotics, dulling the sharp edge of reality so it cannot pierce their bubble of comfort. And predators thrive on this self-deception. They know that most people will choose the comfort of a lie over the pain of clarity. A predator can act suspiciously, can slip in small cruelties, can even test boundaries openly, and still the innocent will excuse it because the cost of admitting danger feels greater than the cost of ignoring it. Safety is addictive, even if it is only imagined. And so the illusion deepens, reinforced not only by the predator's charm, but by the victim's own need to believe. The more time passes, the stronger the illusion grows, until the innocent cannot imagine life outside of it. They become dependent on it, afraid not of the predator, but of the truth that might expose him. This dependency is the predator's strongest weapon, a prison built from the victim's own denial. And when the bars of that prison finally bend and break, when the truth crashes in, the realization is devastating. Because it was not just the predator who deceived them, it was themselves. They will see that they handed over their trust willingly, ignored their own instincts, dismissed their own fears, and allowed the illusion to blind them. And this realization cuts deeper than the betrayal itself, for it proves that their own innocence was their enemy all along. When the illusion of safety finally breaks, it is not a gentle awakening, but a violent rupture. It feels as if the ground itself has betrayed them, as if the walls they leaned on for comfort have collapsed inward, crushing what little trust remained. The innocent look back and realize that the signs were always there. The uneasy silences, the manipulative smiles, the small inconsistencies in stories, the subtle pressure in moments that should have been free. They remember the instincts they silenced, the doubts they buried, the unease they explained away in the name of kindness. And in that memory lies the cruelest truth. Safety was never real. It was only a dream they forced themselves to live inside. The predator did not create the illusion. He only stepped into it, nurtured it, and weaponized it against them. And once that realization sets in, the innocent can never return to the world they once believed in. They carry the weight of betrayal not only from the predator, but from themselves, haunted by the knowledge that they were willing participants in their own downfall. Some collapse under this burden, retreating into fear, mistrust, and isolation. Others take the shards of the broken illusion and turn them into weapons, learning that suspicion is not poison but armor, that doubt is not weakness but survival. The loss of safety is painful, but it is also transformative. It marks the death of one version of the self and the painful birth of another. And as the illusion fades into memory, the innocent stand changed, no longer glowing with blind trust, but shadowed by awareness. Safety, they finally understand, was never a given. It was always an illusion, and the only true protection is vigilance. The comfort of innocence is gone forever, replaced by the sharp edge of clarity. And once seen, this truth cannot be unseen. The predator does not approach with claws bared or teeth dripping with hunger. He approaches with a mask, carefully crafted to fit the desires of his target. To the lonely, he appears attentive. To the insecure, he appears reassuring. To the ambitious, he appears supportive. His genius lies in this shape-shifting, in his ability to mold himself into the exact figure the innocent wishes to see. This mask is not clumsy. It is refined through years of practice, perfected by observing what makes people open their doors, their hearts, their secrets. The predator studies kindness like an actor studies a script, rehearsing every gesture until it feels convincing. He knows when to laugh, when to listen, when to appear vulnerable himself, so that the innocent feels safe in revealing more. This is how trust is not stolen but freely given, placed into his hands like a gift. And the mask grows thicker with every act of generosity, every well-timed compliment, every demonstration of apparent loyalty. The innocent sees what they want to see: a confidant, a protector, a partner, perhaps even a savior. But beneath the mask, nothing changes. The predator is still watching, still measuring, still calculating what can be extracted. His smile hides a ledger, his kindness hides a hunger, his presence hides a plan. And the longer the mask is worn, the deeper the illusion takes root. By the time cracks appear, by the time glimpses of cruelty slip through, the innocent is already entangled, too loyal, too hopeful, too invested to escape easily. They tell themselves everyone has flaws, that no one is perfect, that perhaps they are expecting too much. What they do not realize is that perfection was the bait. The mask was designed to be flawless, because perfection disarms suspicion. And so the predator wears it without hesitation, knowing the more convincing the act, the less likely his prey will ever believe there was a mask at all. The mask is not merely a disguise, it is a weapon. What makes it powerful is not only its ability to hide malice, but its ability to create dependency. The innocent does not just trust the mask, they rely on it. They begin to weave their sense of safety, of meaning, of belonging around the predator's performance. They mistake rehearsed empathy for genuine care, manipulation for understanding, possession for love. Each interaction deepens the bond, reinforcing the illusion that they have found someone rare, someone different, someone who truly sees them. And the predator encourages this belief with precision. He provides just enough warmth to keep hope alive, just enough vulnerability to keep suspicion quiet, just enough generosity to keep loyalty intact. The mask is never constant. It shifts to match the victim's needs. When they are insecure, it reassures. When they are confident, it admires. When they are doubtful, it consoles. And this adaptability makes the mask seem even more authentic, because it feels personal, tailored, alive. But behind every gesture is calculation. Behind every kindness is leverage. Behind every promise is strategy. The predator understands that humans are desperate to believe in connection, desperate to be understood, desperate to find meaning in another. And so he offers this illusion freely. knowing that hunger will blind the innocent to the inconsistencies hiding beneath. By the time questions arise, by the time they notice the cracks, the cost of leaving feels too high. The victim has already revealed too much, invested too deeply, and surrendered too fully to walk away without losing pieces of themselves. They cling to the mask because it represents not only the predator, but their own dream of safety, of belonging, of love. And this is the genius of the mask. It does not simply conceal the predator's nature. It conceals the victim's fear of truth. Every mask eventually cracks. No performance can be perfect forever, no illusion flawless without slip. The predator, confident in his hold, grows careless, allowing flashes of his true nature to surface. A moment of cruelty disguised as a joke, a sudden withdrawal of warmth, a contradiction in words that once seemed consistent. To the innocent, these glimpses feel unsettling, but they are quickly buried under rationalization. They tell themselves he is stressed, that everyone makes mistakes, that perhaps they misunderstood. And so the mask is allowed to remain, even as the cracks widen. But the truth is inevitable. At some point, the predator no longer needs the disguise. Once the prey is bound by loyalty, dependency, or fear, the mask becomes unnecessary. That is when the real face emerges, cold, unfeeling, merciless. The victim often clings even harder then, desperate to restore the image they fell in love with, searching for the mask instead of facing the monster behind it. And this is the cruel irony. The mask does not just deceive, it becomes addictive. The victim longs for its return, even knowing it was a lie, because it represented the safety they crave and the innocence they lost. The predator knows this and uses it to tighten control. He may put the mask back on briefly, offering glimpses of the old illusion, enough to keep hope alive, enough to keep the victim chained. But once the mask has slipped, it can never again be unseen. The realization comes with a chilling clarity. The person they trusted never existed at all. What they loved was a performance. What they clung to was a costume. What they believed in was nothing more than strategy. When that truth settles, the pain is not only in the betrayal but in the recognition that they were complicit, that they wanted the mask to be real so badly they ignored the signs. This is the final cruelty of the predator's mask. It is not only the face of deception, it is the mirror of the victim's own desperate hope. Trust is the most fragile currency in the human soul, and once it is shattered, it can never return to its original form. It is like glass, beautiful when whole, reflective when pure, but once cracked, even if pieced back together, the fractures remain visible forever. For the innocent, trust is given freely, as naturally as breathing. They hand it over without caution, believing it will be valued, believing it will be held carefully in the hands of others. But the predator does not hold it. He exploits it. He twists it into a chain, binds the victim with their own faith, and when he is finished, he snaps it without hesitation. The moment trust dies, the world changes. The air feels heavier, faces look sharper, words sound hollow. The innocent, once so open, feel the sting of betrayal deep in their chest, a wound that is not physical but spiritual. And it is not only the predator who dies in their heart. It is the entire idea of safety, of loyalty, of connection. Every betrayal echoes louder than the last, until trust becomes not a gift, but a risk too costly to give. Some never recover. They withdraw, build walls so high no one can climb them, carrying their broken faith like a scar. Others attempt to rebuild, But every new bond is shadowed by suspicion. Every promise sounds like a threat in disguise. Every smile carries the weight of doubt. The death of trust reshapes a person forever. What was once innocent becomes guarded. What was once open becomes locked. What was once hopeful becomes cold. And perhaps this is the greatest tragedy, that the predator does not only consume the victim's innocence in the moment, but poisons their future, leaving them unable to believe again. Trust, once dead, is not resurrected. It lingers only as a ghost, haunting every attempt at connection, reminding the victim that even the sweetest fragrance can mask the scent of blood. When trust dies, it does not die quietly. It unravels the entire fabric of the world you once believed in. Every memory you shared with the one who betrayed you becomes corrupted, tainted with doubt. You look back at moments that once warmed you and wonder if they were ever real, or if they were simply part of the predator's performance. A smile that once meant comfort now feels like a trick. A promise that once offered safety now echoes as manipulation. The mind tortures itself with questions that have no answer. Did they ever care? Was any of it true? Or was I only a means to an end? These questions rot in the heart like poison, not only destroying trust in the betrayer, but eroding trust in the self. Because the victim does not only feel betrayed by another, they feel betrayed by their own judgment. They doubt their instincts, their perception, their ability to distinguish truth from lies. This is the cruelest cut of all. Once you no longer trust yourself, every future step feels uncertain. Every decision feels like walking blind. And the predator knows this. He leaves not only wounds but confusion, ensuring the victim questions their own reality long after he is gone. The death of trust spreads like a virus. It infects friendships, relationships, even the ability to be vulnerable with family or strangers. Suspicion becomes the default lens, cynicism the shield. Yet, beneath the armor, the victim secretly mourns the innocence they lost. They miss the version of themselves who could believe without hesitation, who could give without calculation, who could open their heart without the constant fear of betrayal. But innocence, once taken, cannot be reborn. What replaces it is something colder, harder, sharper. Trust dies loudly, but its absence lives quietly in every interaction, every hesitation, every wall built in silence. It changes not only how you see others, but how you see yourself, and that transformation is permanent. The corpse of trust leaves behind more than scars. It leaves behind a new creature, forged from pain and necessity. Some call it wisdom, others call it bitterness, but whatever name it takes, it is a different self than the one that existed before betrayal. The victim learns to watch more closely, to measure every word, to question every gesture. They cultivate silence as a shield, caution as armor, suspicion as their constant companion. What once was given freely must now be earned through trial and testing, and even then, the doors never open fully again. In this new reality, trust becomes a luxury too expensive to afford. And yet, deep inside, the memory of innocence still whispers, a faint ache for connection without fear. This ache is both a wound and a temptation. Sometimes the victim lowers their guard, hoping to feel that warmth again, hoping to believe again, and in those moments they are most vulnerable to another predator. The cycle continues because the world is full of hunters who can smell longing, who know how to mimic safety long enough to disarm the wary. That is the haunting truth. The death of trust does not guarantee safety. It simply alters the form of danger. Those who harden completely may live in isolation, safe but starved of intimacy. Those who soften, even slightly, risk being broken again. There is no clean escape, only trade-offs between loneliness and danger, between walls that suffocate and doors that betray. And so the death of trust is not just a single moment, but a lifelong sentence, shaping every bond that follows. The victim carries it like a shadow that stretches into every interaction, a reminder that behind every kind word may lurk a knife. In the end, the predator's greatest victory is not the betrayal itself, but the inheritance of suspicion he leaves behind, ensuring the victim never walks through the world the same way again. Pain does not vanish, it transforms. Betrayal does not end with the breaking of trust. It forges something harder, something colder, something that was never there before. The victim who once lived wide open, who once offered their heart without condition, begins to feel a new layer forming around them, invisible yet unyielding. This is the birth of armor. It begins quietly, with small hesitations, a pause before confiding, a second thought before extending a hand, a flicker of suspicion before believing words. At first, this armor feels alien, even unwanted, as though innocence still resists its presence. But the longer the wounds ache, the more the scars burn, the more necessary the armor becomes. It is no longer a choice, but a survival instinct, a way to keep predators at bay. And unlike trust, armor does not shatter, it hardens. It absorbs the blows that would once have pierced straight through. The person who once trembled at betrayal begins to sense an unfamiliar strength, a quiet distance between themselves and the world. They learn to listen more than they speak, to observe more than they reveal, to measure every interaction like a soldier assessing the battlefield. This is not the same as healing. Healing suggests a return to what once was. Armor does not restore innocence, it replaces it. The self that emerges is no longer naive, but strategic, no longer vulnerable, but guarded. And with this armor comes a new identity, one built not on hope, but on vigilance. The victim becomes a survivor, but more than that, they become untouchable in ways they never imagined before. The birth of armor is both a death and a rebirth. The death of the open, trusting self, and the rebirth of someone who can no longer be devoured so easily. It is not freedom, but it is protection. And in a world full of predators, protection is power. The armor does not appear overnight. It is crafted piece by piece, in silence, in pain, in moments of realization that innocence cannot protect you. Every betrayal adds a layer. Every wound seals another joint. Every disappointment hardens the shell. At first, this process feels like losing humanity, like being stripped of the warmth that once defined your soul. Smiles no longer come as easily. Laughter no longer flows without suspicion. Kindness no longer feels safe to offer. But in truth, the armor is not the destruction of self. It is the preservation of what remains. Without it, the heart would bleed out endlessly, consumed by those who prey on openness. With it, the heart learns to beat behind walls that cannot be so easily penetrated. The survivor begins to understand that silence is stronger than argument, distance is safer than trust, and boundaries are sharper than weapons. They stop explaining themselves to those who do not deserve explanation, stop chasing validation from those who exploit it, stop offering love to those who see it as weakness. The armor teaches them the value of withdrawal, of restraint, of holding back until proof is undeniable. And though the world may accuse them of being cold, detached, or unfeeling, They know better. They are not cold. They are safe. They are not detached. They are watchful. They are not unfeeling. They are in control. This is the paradox of armor. It looks like hardness from the outside, but from within it feels like peace, a peace born from knowing that predators can no longer pierce you so easily. Yet, the price is steep. Armor is heavy. It weighs on the soul, keeps you at a distance from intimacy, from connection, from the kind of openness that once made life glow. It is a trade-off, but one that feels necessary, because the alternative is annihilation. Better to carry the weight of armor than to bleed again in the hands of those who smell innocence like blood in the water. There comes a moment when the survivor no longer remembers what it felt like to live without armor. The softness that once defined them, the openness that once invited others in, now feels like a story from another life, distant and almost unbelievable. They begin to walk through the world with a calm that others mistake for indifference, but in truth, it is mastery. The predator who once fed on innocence finds nothing to consume here. Only silence, only distance, only steel. And in this realization, the survivor discovers an unexpected truth. The armor that once felt like a burden is also a weapon. It reflects back the hunger of those who seek to exploit. It frustrates their attempts. It denies them access to the tender parts of the soul. No longer prey, the survivor becomes something else entirely. Not a predator, but a presence that cannot be touched, a figure that cannot be deceived. Yet beneath this strength lies a question that haunts them in the quiet moments. Has the armor protected their soul, or has it imprisoned it? They wonder if love, trust, and connection can ever exist again, or if those things were buried along with their innocence. The armor saves them, but it also costs them, because every wall that keeps the predator out also keeps others from coming in. And so the survivor walks the edge between safety and isolation, between strength and loneliness, between vigilance and exile. This is the paradox of becoming untouchable. You are safer than ever, yet further from the warmth you once craved. Still, when the choice is between bleeding and surviving, the answer becomes clear. Innocence breeds predators, but armor births survivors. And in a world that preys on the unguarded, survival itself becomes the highest form of power. Innocence, when unconscious, is a weakness. It blinds, it exposes, it invites predators to feed on it without resistance. But when innocence is chosen, when it is worn with awareness, it becomes something far more dangerous. It becomes a weapon. The mask of innocence is one of the most powerful tools in human interaction because it disarms without effort. Predators are drawn to it, assuming vulnerability, assuming weakness, assuming easy victory. They lower their guard, reveal their hunger, and expose their strategies, all while believing they are in control. But the one who wears innocence consciously is no victim. They are an architect of illusion, hiding sharp perception behind soft eyes, concealing ruthless calculation beneath gentle words. In this way, innocence becomes camouflage, the sweetest bait for the most dangerous prey. History is filled with figures who understood this paradox. Those who appeared harmless while moving pieces with precision, those who let others underestimate them so that they could strike at the perfect moment. Even in daily life, the appearance of naivety can soften suspicion, invite confession, or draw loyalty that would never be offered to someone who appears calculating. Innocence, weaponized, does not announce itself. It whispers. It smiles. It plays small while secretly shaping outcomes. The true danger is not the predator who bares their teeth, but the one who hides their claws under the illusion of harmlessness. And when the moment comes, when the trap is fully set, the mask of innocence is more deadly than open aggression, because it kills without warning. It is not merely defense. It is offense disguised as purity, strategy hidden in simplicity, power wearing the costume of fragility. The brilliance of weaponized innocence lies in its invisibility. No one fears what appears soft. No one suspects what seems weak. The predator who sharpens his teeth and flexes his power announces his intentions, but the one who plays innocent moves unnoticed, slipping beneath defenses with the ease of a whisper. People are quick to underestimate those they perceive as naive. They reveal secrets more openly. They drop their guard. They speak carelessly, believing they are in the presence of someone harmless. In this way, innocence becomes a mirror. It reflects back whatever others want to see. To the arrogant, it confirms superiority. To the manipulator, it suggests opportunity. To the suspicious, it offers comfort. But behind this mirror lies calculation. Every word is remembered, every weakness catalogued, every motive studied, while the innocent mask remains intact. This is why innocence, when sharpened, is more dangerous than aggression. It draws the predator in willingly. They lean closer, believing they are the hunter, never realizing they are being studied by sharper eyes than their own. In politics, in power, in personal dynamics, this tactic has reshaped empires and toppled tyrants. Entire strategies have been built not on force, but on appearing harmless until the moment to strike arrives. The art of war has always prized deception, and innocence is the most convincing form of it. Because no one questions a smile, no one prepares against softness, no one imagines that beneath wide eyes and gentle tone lies a blade. This is the paradox the true survivor understands, that what once endangered them can become their shield, their snare, and their weapon. They are no longer the prey, they are the trap. And the predator, blinded by arrogance, walks willingly into their hands. The weaponization of innocence does not roar, it whispers. Its greatest strength lies in timing. The one who wears innocence as armor and disguise waits patiently, gathering truths, studying patterns, collecting the small details predators reveal when they believe no danger is present. And then, when the moment is right, they strike, not with reckless fury, but with precision, in ways the predator never anticipated. It may come as a revelation of secrets at the perfect moment, dismantling reputations and exposing hidden cruelties. It may come as sudden withdrawal, leaving the predator disarmed and abandoned, powerless without their carefully groomed prey. Or it may come in the most devastating form, silence. To deny the predator access, to refuse them the stage, to let their hunger rot unfulfilled. This is the sharpest cut of all. Innocence as a weapon teaches the survivor that power is not always about domination, but about control, about knowing when to appear weak and when to reveal strength. The predator thrives on predictability, but the mask of innocence breaks the pattern, creating a battlefield where arrogance becomes blindness. And the deeper truth is this: weaponized innocence does not merely protect, it transforms the dynamic entirely. The predator becomes the prey, ensnared by their own assumptions, undone by their own confidence. The survivor, once naive, now plays the long game, understanding that the most dangerous blade is the one no one sees until it is already buried deep. This is the final paradox. What was once the cause of suffering becomes the source of power, and what was once the symbol of fragility becomes the mask of invincibility. Innocence, when wielded with awareness, is not just protection, it is domination through disguise.